Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever applies. It's early morning here in Lake Tahoe, Nevada, and it's my privilege to be here with you. My name's Davis Masten, and let's see. I see that there are not a lot of us, which actually I'm looking forward to. But as people come in, let me give you a quick idea about the agenda for the 1 hour that we have together. From an agenda standpoint, we're starting with this little review. Um, I have been asked to talk a little bit about my background, which I'm inclined not to do, but I'll tell a few stories, and then we will dive into introductions for each of us. I will have been done, but I'd like you to be able to, with your video camera on, please introduce yourselves, where you are, how long, where you are, who you are. We'll keep it real brief there, and then we will. I'll make a few comments, and then we'll move on into the substance of this, which I hope is a good conversation. A good conversation that I'll learn some things from, and we can all learn from each other in that context. So as opposed to waiting, I think I'm just going to dive in, because as I see the various screens on my side, I think we are about ready to go. So so from my standpoint, what I would my interest in longevity really started 40 plus years ago, when my dad was at a party one evening. I just got over a cold, said he hadn't felt so good in 20 years. And the next morning on the golf course, he took a back swing and dropped dead. And that there was a medical doctor in the next foursome, and checked him out and said he was gone. While it was shocking and saddens me to this day, that in retrospect, I feel like he, in comparison to how so many people die, uh, this was rather, he was very fortunate, and I use that as an inspiration, where one would have one's lifespan and one's health span give out at the same time. That to longevity became more of an interest. I spent a lot of time at the national academies, and in that context, I was at a meeting on bacteria and the biome and the like. It was a 3-day meeting, and I came into the third day of it feeling a temperature, and I asked someone to get me a card and change my flight so I could just fly home, and instead they called me an ambulance. And 7 hours later, I was read last rites. And so it happened to be a Catholic hospital, and so they did things like that. But they essentially thought I was gone, and they decided that, well, like so many people with near-death experiences, you think about this afterwards. And in that context, what I decided to do, based on things I'd learned at the National Academy of Medicine and elsewhere, I wanted to focus my life really on longevity. I wanted to pursue how I could make my life, however much time I had, to be as vibrant as possible. And I also looked at the statistics, and as we all have, and it's easy to get very discouraged about so many people living longer without preparation to do so. And so, with some luck, I will stumble into some things in my investigations that might be useful to me, but more importantly, useful to others. So I can. I think the other thing to say is that we had a company that we sold back in 2007, so quite a while ago. And it focused in the area of design research. And design research is, if you think about user-centered design, which there's been a lot of discussion about that, that design research is helping designers and the overall teams figure out how to better understand the customer, how to or who the user is. So it's the helping develop what these tools are to inform the design process. So I know a bit about that subject. My wife still teaches that subject in continuing studies at Stanford, and she has a new book coming out. But I'm not here plugging anything. What I'm doing is saying, just from a background basis, that that's a bias I have. So what I'd like to do in our first question, and hopefully you can ask questions back as well. The first question is, who are you? Where you're from? If you're an awardee, first off, congratulations. That's a great honor. And if you can briefly give a sense of, well, we'll go from those, and then we'll move into a second round, which will be what is it from a user insight standpoint? Something that you found in your work that has either been useful to you, like an insight that, oh goodness, this is really helpful. I'm not looking for anything proprietary or secret or anything along those lines. But is there something that I might learn from, or frankly, the other awardees might learn from? So what if it's not an insight? Is there some kind of user insight issue that you have, some kind of problem that you've been addressing that we as a group might be able to address? Now that's maybe a little overly ambitious for a bunch of people who are seeing each other for the first time on Zoom, and we have a short period of time, but why not be ambitious? Let's see what we can do. So you have Davis Masten coming in from Lake Tahoe, and who is, I don't see Michelle with a, so the next person, let's see if we can run this to my right. Let's start the introduction. I'm just curious how the screen works here. So are people in gallery view?
Sure, Davis. So you feel free to just, I guess, call on folks since they already have their cameras on, because I think everyone's view looks a bit different in terms of the order of
Yeah, got
folks.
it. So I'm going to go directly to Catherine. Catherine, please introduce yourself quickly and tell us where you are.
Hi, thank you so much. Hi, everyone. My name is Catherine Clare, currently coming in from Maryland in the US. And I'm a PhD student at the Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health in their Department of Health, Behavior, and Society.
Fabulous. Welcome. And how about Dean? Dean, can you hear us?
I can. Thank you so much for having us here. I'm Dean Scherzer. I'm a neurologist. We're both neurologists, co-directors of the Brain Health and Alzheimer's Prevention Program in Loma Linda, as well as the head. She's the CEO, and we are several of us here are working with the Healthy Minds Initiative, an effort to translate science, brain health science, from the desk to the communities, a community-based participatory approach at the interface of technology, community, specific community strengths, And so we think we're at that interface right now that we can use the tools in our hands to better optimize transfer of that information.
And I'm Aisha Sherzai, vascular neurologist, assistant professor in Loma Linda University. We're both in Los Angeles and working on Healthy Minds Initiative. Thank you for having us.
Well, that's exciting. Just a quick little bit of local relevance. I went to the University of Redlands down the street from Loma Linda.
Amazing.
And someone I met through the academies and served on in the National Research Council, they have the Division of Earth and Life Studies, which is life sciences and stem cells and ocean and climate and air and water, just little issues. But I met someone in your neck of the woods, Jack Dangermond. Jack founded a company called Esri,
Yes.
which is the geospatial platform that, alongside with open source, kind of dominate that whole area. Anyway, welcome. How about Atif? Did I say that right?
Apologies, I think I was on mute.
Yeah, you were. It's okay. Happens to all of us.
Nope, you pronounced it perfectly, and it's a great segue because I work closely with Dean and Aisha as part of the Healthy Minds Initiative, and I've worked closely with Esri as well. A lot of my work is on spatial epidemiology and integration of technology and space.
Very exciting. Very exciting. Okay, how about George?
Hi, everybody. I'm George Demiris. I'm faculty at the University of Pennsylvania here in Philadelphia in the US, where I direct the Penn Artificial Intelligence and Technology Collaboratory for Healthy Aging. So my work is focusing on the use of technology to support older adults. Thank you.
Fabulous. Welcome, George. And Caroline? Carolyn?
Hi, good morning. My name is Caroline Segala, and I'm coming in from Hawaii. So it's very early here. I'm a program coordinator, and I also work with Healthy Minds Initiative, and the awesome team, part of the team is here all together. So it's lovely to see everybody. And I'm really excited. I came in on April of this year as a program coordinator, particularly to help with a project that we're working on with the African American faith-based organizations. And basically just trying to bring brain health to communities and using or creating lifestyle interventions that take them into consideration when developing them, making them resonate with them at their level, because as we see, every community is very different. They have different backgrounds, different cultures, different histories, and creating a one type of process or program for an entire, well, all of society, it just is not working. So we're very unique in that way. We provide a personalized approach. So I'm really looking forward to the dialogue, and thank you for having us here today.
Well, that's great. A quick aloha question. Is you happen to live in Hawaii, but your work is mostly done elsewhere, or are you like on Oahu and focused on the variety of cultures there, or how does that work?
Well, I live on the Big Island in Pahoa. Great. It's a little town, and it's so we're about maybe an hour or so flying from Oahu. But yes, as you see, everything's become virtual now, so I can connect with everybody at any time on the computer. It would be lovely to see everybody in person, but yeah, we've been living here about 6 years now. So I'm kind of fortunate that we're able to connect this way, and I can work in this field remotely. So I'm really appreciative of that.
Yeah, fabulous. My sister has some land on outside of Hilo that's now under 30 feet of lava.
Yeah, we're about 3 streets away from the major lava flow, Fissure 8. We thought we were going to lose our home, so we were fortunate. Unfortunately, other people were not, but it's part of living on an active volcano, right? So.
Oh, yeah. Life in the hot lane.
Yeah.
Eric, how about you? Thank you, Carolyn.
Hi, everyone. Eric Chess. I'm at the University of Denver, Denver, Colorado, at the Nobel Institute for Healthy Aging. I have a background as an internal medicine physician doing this research, education, outreach program. And we're specifically looking into the intersection between financial decision-making and cognitive impairment.
Ooh. Tasty. Excuse my assessment there. I just find that fascinating. Welcome, Eric. And Adrian, is that, if you would unmute and say hello, please?
Yeah, hi, hello everybody. So I'm Adrian Fuente. I'm from Santiago, Chile, from the University of Chile. I am an audiologist by training. And so my interest is mainly age-related hearing loss, and particularly, yeah, exactly. So particularly the use of hearing aids. So we're basically looking at ways how we can improve the adherence of hearing aids from older adults. Yeah.
Fascinating. You may or may not be aware the FDA just gave approval to a class of non-prescription or non-audiologist hearing assisting devices. And that came directly out of a study done by the National Research Council in maybe 2006. So straight out of the academies. And it was hopefully to break open innovation around the world in this subject. So that's exciting. So welcome from Santiago, and I look forward to hearing more in your introduction. All right, Kirk.
I'm Kirk Wolford. I'm in Cambridge, UK, as opposed to Cambridge, Boston, which is actually generally where I'm from. But I'm an associate professor of creative technologies at Anglia Ruskin University. And I'm one of the new Catalyst Awardees, looking at how we can find people walkable spaces from their front door, and how to encourage people out in spaces and support them when they're out in the world.
Got it. So, Kirk, I think I followed what you said, but I'm going to put a little pressure on you post-introduction, and we're going to come right back to you after the introduction, just to explain that in a little bit more depth. And if you can explain it in a way that gives us kind of an insight, something that you have found particularly interesting that the rest of us might learn from, that I think would be, not to put the pressure on you, but hey, you're an award winner. You can deal with it. All right, great. Thank you, Kirk. Jack.
Hi, I'm Jack, and I'm currently in Taiwan. I'm an assistant research professor in National Cheng Kang University. And my areas of research interest, human-computer interaction and user experience and augmented and virtual reality. And for my Catalyst Award project is about understanding and designing for the community in the context of transportation, particularly how emerging technologies can reshape or as a topic we can use to encourage the community to think about the future of transportation. And I'm a native Taiwanese, but in the past 12-something years, I studied and worked in the US for those 12 years. I guess it's because I have been an international student or international worker that deep down, I am just used and sometimes I think about mobility, about moving, about transportation. And I think somehow that resonated in me, which become my Catalyst Award project theme. So I guess, your life experience can become your research topic somehow, some way, yeah.
Sure.
So that's it from me.
Well, that's great. Great to have you, Jack, and whatever time it is there. Mariella, did I say that right?
Yes, that's right. Hello, everyone. I am really happy to be here today. My name, well, is Mariela Gaete Reyes. I am an architect. I have a master's in urban development and a PhD in human geography in the UK. I am the director of the Housing Institute at the University of Chile. So I was very nicely surprised by a colleague from the University of Chile as well. My research interests revolve around the geographies of disability, access, and the intersectionality between disability and aging. I work as a postdoctoral research fellow on dementia-friendly environments in the UK, and my team and I are 2021 Catalyst Awardees, funded by ANIP, that is the National Agency for Research and Development of Chile. And my project is called A Lifetime Home, an intergenerational accessible social housing model. That's me.
Cool. Well, welcome. I love Santiago, and that's a whole different subject. But it's lovely to have two Chileans here. And as I look at my screen, I think Alistair Moore does not have. Alistair, are you there?
Hello, yes, I am here.
Oh, all right. Well, welcome. Even a face.
I have a face. I'm in a quiet booth in an office, so hopefully we're not disturbed.
Good, good, good. And whereabouts are you from?
I'm based in London at Imperial College, and I am a Catalyst Awardee for this year, working on helping people with hearing loss to be able to partake in group conversations, so to maintain their their ability to socialize.
Well, as an aging explorer, I do all kinds of things to try and listen. Anyway, this is what I would like to continue to do in this session. I think if it works for everybody, that I would like to now that we've done the brief introduction, is to see if we can share some insights. And we've teed up Kirk to go once I'm quiet. But let me tell you a quick. I made my career in Silicon Valley, and we worked in 30 some odd countries, and it was fascinating. I mean, people are just so different. But user experience, design research, user-centered design can take so many different forms. And an example that I was not in the room, I had nothing to do with this, I just think it's a good example of the power of user research is with someone we've all heard of, Steve Jobs. And Steve Jobs did not want to get into the telephony business. He didn't want to make an iPhone. He ruled the roost at Apple. What got him to change his mind was some researchers, some anthropologists actually, that went off, and they had. Everybody remember the iPod? So it was music, and then they had a good business, growing business with the iPod. But then these cell phones were getting smaller and smaller, and it was like and more prevalent. And so what they found was that people were not so willing to carry both of them, right? They would carry one, but not both. And so, given the larger need for people as communications more than music, Steve Jobs reluctantly got into the phone and music business and with the iPhone. So that's just an example of the kind of brief little thing, maybe not so visible, but the kind of example that I'm looking for. And so, Kirk, why don't we start with you?
Right, so start with what?
Well, good. People often say that to me. Yeah, that's nice, David. So I heard what you said, but really, what on earth are you talking about? So I'm wondering in your work, right? I didn't quite follow what you were saying. So if you could give a quick introduction? And then is there something, is there some insight, some user-based thing that you have found or that you are struggling with that you would like to share? And if not, that's fine. That's where I was going for. Am I clearer now?
Yes, much more.
Okay, good.
I hope you'll forgive me for not going into much detail in an open forum,
Yeah, no, of course.
especially at the start of a project.
Of course.
So been looking at basically what are the barriers to people walking. We know that just getting people walking is possibly the best thing somebody can do for their health, to maintain their health. But there are all kinds of reasons why people don't. So we're looking at what encourages people to get out of the house and what stops people from getting out of the house. And it's really quite interesting. Well, if you know anything about Cambridge, I actually live in Norfolk, so I live in a very rural area. And people think we've got all this green space around. Why aren't people out walking? It's partly because it's really dangerous. Tractors, forklifts come rolling down at 50 miles an hour. They'll take you with them if you're not careful. But how do you find the trails? How do you get access to trails? And in city spaces, we also have issues that we can guide people to different locations. But how do we know what's safe and what's not safe? And we're doing a lot of work with different focus groups and talking to people. And something which I hadn't expected at the very beginning of this project was how many people are afraid of dogs and unhappy going to parks because a lot of dogs are off lead and chasing people. And then we run into all kinds of mobility issues where we've got sidewalks, where we don't have sidewalks, where it's easy to get up and get down. But one of the main things which is driving some of the work that we're doing is just looking at giving people a purpose. Again, if we're looking at people who are later in their careers or are retired, a lot of them, particularly after they retire, they don't feel that they're connected to the world anymore. They don't feel that, it's not so much they don't feel that they're worthy of exercising, but they don't see a reason to do it. They say, yeah, I'm tired, that's enough. What we're trying to do is to give people, we don't want to give people a purpose, but we want to show them that the activity that they're doing can help their community, can help themselves as well.
Got it. Excellent. Thank you. I find that fascinating and thought-provoking. How about from the Loma Linda side? Any insights that you're willing to share?
Yeah, we live in a very unique place. In fact, that's how we picked this place. We came from NIH and Columbia University, and I did work with Leon at Alzheimer's at the UCSD, which was the main dementia place in the country. And we wanted to know, we were not so interested in the clinical trials and more on translation. And where we came was absolutely mind-boggling, where you saw two universes. I mean, as distinctly different as you could ever imagine. And this is not a hyperbole. What you see in San Bernardino, which is actually in the same space as Loma Linda proper, and the difference in clinical outcomes are just bewildering, which has not been recorded properly. We work in both clinics, half a day in a free clinic in San Bernardino and a day in Loma Linda. And what you see in one population, it's the Seventh-day Adventists, people living their 90s with full faculty, walking, running better than me, and doing all kinds of physical activities. And then in San Bernardino, in the free clinic, you see 40-year-olds with strokes and vascular dementia and white matter disease, the kind that you would see in 80-year-olds on MRIs, which we see regularly. The distinction is not one of selection bias. It's a real profound distinction, and it has to do with translation of lifestyle. So that's what prompted us, my PhD and our work has been towards that, to see how do you translate. You can't just dictate to people. You can't just tell people to do X, Y, and Z. This protocol was created in Harvard and you just have to do it. It doesn't work that way. So you have to, what we found out is that you have to kind of find the working points, the elements in communities that are the touch points that can work, and it has to come from them. And we think that we're at a time where technology, community, and research, a more iterative, more agile research can give us that capacity to both capture data, but that's a small part of it. I know for data scientists, that's Uh, but also to use that on an iterative process to bring change with the community in charge, not in a very soft way of using the word charge, but truly being able to engineer their own change. That's our interest. And I think a few years ago, this would be a academic fool's errand, but I think at this point that we are there where we can do that. And some of the people that are talking about this, the hearing thing, 9%, 10% of dementia is contributed by hearing loss. Walking, we know how much just simple walking and walking spaces help. That's why we came to Beach Cities, and this is where they've created a community around walking spaces. But they listen to the community. So that is, I think, a opportunity that's being missed, and that's where we are hoping to kind of land and make a difference.
Very exciting. Thank you. Thank you. How about Mariella? Anything that you would like to add?
Yeah, well, I mean, the difficulties that we found, I mean, prior to applying to this award, we conducted research on disability, social housing, and access. And we found that, you know, as our bodies age, they change. And usually, you know, our homes do not adapt to those changes. And older people end up leaving their homes, going to care homes and other places, living with families. You know, that is particularly the case in South America. When I was in the UK, it was different because, you know, disabled people used to live alone with support from the state and everything. And that's, you know, they had a lot of difficulties, like from not being able to use the bathroom, you know, having to use catheters because they couldn't actually access the bathroom. So that was really serious. It's like how we could see how like the home makes you sick, literally. And then because it's not accessible, so there was a lot of loss of autonomy. So they couldn't cook for themselves, not because they didn't know how to cook, but because they couldn't enter the kitchen. Like, so that's why we thought about doing this project, the Lifetime Home, and trying to make a home that is more accessible, more flexible, that, you know, where you can have technology that is not expensive, but that adapts to the changes of the body as we age. So yeah, I mean, we learned a lot from people, from our participants, from previous research. And I have been, you know, researching on disability with disabled people for a long time. So yeah.
That's great. Part of the method of my madness here is that my hope is that we not only learn from the stories, but that you will reach out to each other going, yeah, this is really interesting what you're doing. Would you, you know, what do you think about thus and so? Because so much of my experience with the national academies, with the Frontiers of Engineering or the Frontiers of Science or the Keck's Futures Initiative, so many of these things are about the unknown and the future, but it's also about the connectivity that helps people get where they're going in unexpected ways. So anyway, these are all, hopefully these stories inspire each of you as they do me. Catherine, what do you have something to share or a question to ask, or what do you got?
Yeah, I am glad I'm following up after Mariella, because I think I have some insights into what she's working with as well. But my Catalyst project is focused on using social network analysis to explore the integration of informal and formal care networks of older adults. And so one of the insights I think I've had is the fact that I think theoretically and ideally, your informal care network is made up of your family, your friends, your neighbors. But for some older adults, it might only be friends. And for some, there is no one in their informal care network. And so I think that's been really an insight, just because I think we tend to make assumptions in our work when we go into it. But really recognizing that for some older adults, they don't have many people, or they have no one to help them outside of sort of the formal healthcare structure. So I was just thinking about what Mariella was saying about, living with family or being alone and having to sort of make these trade-off decisions based on the fact that there is no one to help you in your home.
Very helpful. Very interesting. So there is one of the things I used to do was chair something called the Quantified Self Labs, which was the hub of the Quantified Self movement around the world. Over 100,000 people doing all kinds of crazy things, but also things are now being done, sponsored by NIH and the CDC and all kinds of places. Anyway, the Quantified Self, I know some people in the caregiving side that are doing some very interesting things, a lot of experiments that have worked and not worked. So if you have part of what I'm reasonably good at is connecting unconnected dots. So if you have any interest in that, feel free to reach out to me via email, and I'll try to connect some dots. And so Eric, how about did we get to you? I don't think so.
No, not in the second round. I'll say I find all this really fascinating. It's great to hear all of you talk. I think some of the connections and the crossover in terms of the work I do involves, let's say, going back to Kirk, your work in purpose and why people are doing what they're doing, and their drive, their motivation, their behavior, and their decision making. And that gets to kind of the work that I'm doing on financial decision making, and then its connection over to cognitive impairment, which has been well studied over the last 20 years. We're just trying to, like others, probably build on research and take the next steps in terms of exploring those connections. But I'm really fascinated by all of this work, so it's great to be here.
Well, great. Thank you. How about let's go to Taiwan and comments?
Thank you, Davis. I have to admit that I'm very new to working with users that are considered as the elderly or the aging population. Because previously in my human-computer interaction or user experience project, like in lab studies, we work with healthy young students or participants.
Sure.
Or I work with people with specialized occupations like firefighters, biohazard professionals, or even oil rig operators. Right. So those, participants, they come to my study because of their because they're easier to get than those young students, or we recruit them because those participants has a certain profession that we were interested.
Sure, but, of course.
Yeah, but it is because of this grant that I started to think and design some open-ended question with the aging population and transportation as the main context. And like I said, I'm very new to this population, so I look forward to more suggestions from you. But I just got this award like 2 or 3 months ago, so right now it's in a preparation phase. And I noticed that I don't have a lot of findings to share, but so far I've noticed that when we talk about transportation, it's not just the vehicles. It involves the infrastructures. It involves the policies. It involves the whole community to think and build a future. We build a future now so that we can anticipate a future, a society that is done now. I don't know. I don't know if I'm making sense because it
No,
takes time to.
I think you're being clear, and just for time's sake, I'm going to moderate here a little bit. But what I hear you saying is that so much in user experience, it helps if people are reacting to something. And so if you're building in your experiment, you're going to be building something that people can react to, and you'll have more insights from there. Let me go back to Chile for a second. Adrian, hearing, do you have insights that we all can benefit from, or that you have benefited from in terms of hearing?
Well, yeah, well, first of all, I think it's fascinating to hear everybody, so everybody's projects, because I think ultimately our goal is actually to improve older adults' quality of life, right? Obviously from our own perspectives, right, or expertises. So, well, from hearing, obviously, as an audiologist, my main focus, obviously, right, is hearing loss and how to treat hearing loss. And that becomes very, very important because we know very well today, as you've mentioned as well, right, and a couple of other researchers here. So there is a connection, there is an association between hearing loss and dementia. So we can't really say that hearing loss causes dementia, but at least the two of them are associated. And the current studies, they are also showing that the use of hearing aids may diminish that, so the odds of developing dementia, right, in older adults with hearing loss. But the problem we have today is that even if hearing aids are given for free, like in different countries, in Chile, so the government through the public health system provides hearing aids to all older adults who actually require them. But there is a important percentage of older adults who do not utilize them. They don't wear the hearing aids because they feel that, they're not really helping them. And that's true because basically hearing aids, they improve audibility, but age-related hearing loss is much more than that, right? So it's also the central auditory nervous system. So basically, I think what we need to focus on today is not only on the provision of hearing aids, we have to provide something else besides the hearing aids. So some kind of auditory training or programs focusing on social participation and many other things that can help older adults to better cope with the hearing loss and also to help them to utilize the hearing aids. So what we're doing now, we're trying to combine hearing aids with musical training. So that's my project about. So we're trying to see whether musical training, as with musical training, you train your central auditory system as well. So we hypothesize that might help people with hearing loss to get more benefits from hearing aids, basically. So we'll see what we find, right? But I think, we have to remember about hearing loss always because of this strong connection between hearing loss and dementia, right? Or incidence dementia, I should say. And so hearing loss is the big barrier for social participation. And ultimately, we do want to improve social participation. So improving hearing, it will definitely help improving social participation in older adults.
How exciting. One makes me think of something that had a profound effect on me was watching a video of some dementia research where the patient had been mostly I'm not sure of the right language, but non-responsive for years. And then they played music from his teenage years. And he started like first time in 10 years. He got up and was communicating. And so there's something there that really moved me. I mean, pun intended. But
I think
it's very exciting. It's very exciting.
Yeah, many people are actually interested in the effects of music. I think music really has so many good effects, right? And definitely, people with dementia definitely has also an important effect, positive effect. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm collaborating with on some of my work. I'm not going to talk about my work, but there's a buddy of mine who's was Lou Reed's drummer, and so he and I have been just messing around with nothing Catalyst Award winning worth, but we've been messing around with all kinds of things and at aging and what do beats have to do with that. So. Anyway, George, how about you?
Yeah, I think when we think about the user, so in my work, and more specifically in one of the projects that we focus on, we use passive sensing. So technologies that are built inside the home to create kind of a smart home environment. And we're looking at fall risk prediction and fall detection, as well as assessing activities of daily living. And I think one of the lessons learned from this work for us has been that obviously this notion that older adults are technophobic has been proven wrong over and over again. And we see that in our work too, but it's rather that we need to design solutions that are perceived as useful and usable. And I think with the technologies that we design inside the home, one challenge is to kind of capture the obtrusiveness of those technologies in a more comprehensive way, not just in terms of is it easy to operate the specific piece of hardware or software, because a lot of our participants actually don't have to operate anything. We go in and install the smart home sensors in their homes, but it's also what does it do for people living in a high-tech environment in terms of their own self-perception, the stigma that this may carry, privacy concerns, obviously, which is huge, but also how this affects the human interactions. A lot of participants worry about the use of technology, meaning that people can check on them remotely and therefore visiting less often, or family members checking online, but not necessarily interacting with the older adult. So I think one of the lessons learned when we think about the user is that for our work, thinking about this pervasive computing in the home is that it just has many layers to it, and it's not just about acceptance in the sense of how easy is the technology to install and operate, but rather how do we envision that technology in terms of changing relationships, processes of care, but also human interactions, activities of daily living, what it means for people when we introduce these solutions into their lives.
Great, thank you, George. Claude, you came in a little late, but if you would just say who you are, where you're from, and then if you have an insight from some kind of user work that you've done in your area of interest, please unmute and have at it.
I'm unmuted. Thank you for the invitation, Daves. And George, it's good to see you. We were both involved in the original Leading Age Center, the CAST Center for Technologies that Eric Dishman at Intel Digital Research helped to spearhead. I presented to your class once at UW, I recall. So it's good to see you again.
Good to see you.
Yeah, I have very specific things here that I'd like to share with you all. So, you know, George talked about putting sensors in the home, this whole idea about smart homes. And we've seen a number of products come to the market that basically were sensor technologies in the home, but they were marketed not to the elders, but to the adult children of those elders. And none of these products have succeeded in the market. They've been, you know, they've all failed. And I think one of the reasons they've failed is because they invert the relationship between adults, the parents and the children. And elder adults, you know, we all grew up, boomers reading 1984. We don't like Big Brother watching us, even if Big Brother is our own son and daughter. So Care Wheels is the nonprofit that I founded with Eric Dishman in order to develop an approach to using smart home, AKA Internet of Things technologies, to empower elders to take better care of ourselves by taking good care of each other. And just to jump to it, this is the app that we have developed. It's called the Care Bank. And what you see is me surrounded by a group of my neighbors, people who I agree to share some sensor data with so that we can be aware of how each other is doing. And we use the Catalyst Award to develop our proprietary Bluetooth 5 long-range sensor technology, because there was no sensor technology that would give us the privacy and the total ability to integrate our sensor and app through a platform to be able to do what we do. Basically, we take these simple little sensors, they're accelerometers, we tag artifacts in the home like the pillbox and the refrigerator, and we share that people are within a circle of care are going about their daily activities. If there's a break in their daily activities, an anomaly, they haven't medicated, they haven't eaten, then their app notifies them and they can go and see what's happening, what sensors are reporting. And then they can simply call the person through the app and ask, did you forget to take your medication today? And if so, why? Now, if the person just forgot, then we have a very interesting situation that we've observed. And that is, while medication adherence is very difficult to do, about the best intervention that has been developed is to have somebody who cares about the person call and say, you forgot to take your med today. And that puts the person in a state of higher diligence, because people don't want to bother their friends to have to bother to call them to remind them to take their meds. We call this positive peer-to-peer pressure. If the person's incapacitated, then you get boots on the ground. What's interesting about the Care Bank, and the reason that it's called a bank, is because we monetize people's time for providing these monitoring and first response services to each other in what are called time dollars. The next step in the Care Wheels project is to move from a conventional time bank to a blockchain ledger so that we can collect community credits. And the goal there is to make this all intergenerational, because what we want to do is we want to have care banks in every community. Elders will earn their community credits for daily monitoring. A couple of minutes a day, it adds up quickly. We're basically the Fed pumping liquidity into the community care bank. But then those care credits can circulate intergenerationally as elders may need services, stocking their fridge or picking up a prescription when they've returned from a hospital, chores, yard work, all the various sorts of things that one could imagine. And of course, elders have things to contribute to other members of the community. So we're looking to create a parallel community credit system so that when financial systems are in trouble, people don't suffer in communities, that people can still have the services that each other can give, even if they can't afford to pay for them with conventional fiat money. So just to summarize, and I apologize for taking a long time, but I'm very excited, passionate about my work. We've developed this biotic ecosystem platform. Biotic is an acronym for blockchain and Internet of Things for interdependent care, peer-to-peer care services. And we're repurposing IoT and Web3 technologies from surveillance capitalism and financial speculation to build proactive, predictive, and ultimately preventive peer care networks that enhance our interconnections and empower our interdependence. Care Wheels is developing the Care Bank, a peer care platform that integrates smartphones with IoT sensors and social incentives in the form of behavioral economic incentives to connect, detect, alert, and reward peers for their mutual support. Thank you.
Wow. How exciting. If you would, so Eric Dishman, I knew him just as he came out of, we went to work for Paul Allen's private R&D company in Silicon Valley, where I did a lot of work, and Eric was just a kid who would come in, and he certainly has gone on to an illustrious career. Anyway, my wife and I had dinner with him, I don't know, pre-COVID up in Portland. And please say hello to him next time you see him. So I think there's one I want to get to everybody, but is it Nadia? Um, are you there? Maybe not. Okay, well, Alistair, you've been center screen on me this whole time with your earphones, and you've been listening carefully. Anything that that you have to add to the mix here?
Well, I think like many others, it's early days for my project, but I think echoing what Adrian was saying, in the case of people with hearing loss and how to keep them socially engaged, my initial kind of conversations are very much revealing just to the extent that everyone's at a different place in their journey with their hearing. Some people, their hearing's fine. Some people, their hearing's starting to go, but they don't really realize it. Some are starting to acknowledge it, and some, even have hearing aids, but still have a problem. And I guess with any solution that we can come up with, it's about understanding where they are and what their willingness is to accept, technology, and what the cost is for them in their social interactions. And I think there's, it's a big space, and trying to find the niche that works for a particular intervention is going to be key.
I gotcha. Interesting. That I have a question just in terms of hearing aids and just something I've observed, but I think it applies to possibly everybody's work. In terms of self-perception of identity, I've run into some people who don't wear hearing aids. Basically, they say that makes me look old. And so do you run into those? I'm just using that as a simple little identity example. Are there other issues, other things you've run into that the group might benefit from your joint your experience in terms of personal identity and aging research? And this is open to you, Adrian, or anyone else.
Well, I think overall, the stigma is obviously a problem, right? I think stigma probably is more. It's a problem it's a more marked problem, I would say, in some countries more than others, probably, right? I think we do have that problem here in Chile. Many older adults, as you just said, they just don't want to wear them because they will see that, they will look older, just like. But I think the society has a role on that. Ageism, I think it's a huge issue that we all have to address. And I think we also have a role of, in terms of education to younger adults, right? So to make them, in terms of hearing aids, it would be important to educate the population that hearing aids is something that help older adults, and that's not necessarily, make them, to be less capable than other people, right? Right. So yeah, I would just, jump into the education part, right?
Yep. Good. Anyone else have anything to add on that one?
I would say as a young adult who wears a hearing aid, that it is always really a wonderful experience to talk to older individuals who are maybe less inclined, but then see a younger person who fully embraces it. And I think there's I do agree that there is that kind of feeling of not wanting to look old, but then when you see a younger person who's fully embraced their hearing aid, it can be a wonderful experience for the older person as well.
Great. We have, according to my clock, 5 minutes. And I'm wondering if there is anything. I mean, I can continue to ask questions. I have no problem along those lines. Here we go. Caroline, what, aloha.
Aloha. We briefly discussed this yesterday too in another session, but right now, as Healthy Minds Initiative is working with a a church organization for to support brain health through lifestyle interventions. Basically, we use, like Dean and Aisha and Atif had said, we use the community-based participatory research approach. So we work with them, and that's basically building trust with them, right, to discuss what health means to them, and then developing the lifestyle interventions that resonate with them on their level. After that's been developed, then we're utilizing technology in order to, do the assessments and the lifestyle. The one thing that I've seen is that with some, because this is an older population, having access to technology or knowing how to utilize it. And actually, in one of the other rooms, there was a discussion about certain generations where if they try something on technology and it doesn't work the first time, then they pretty much give up. They're dismayed and they're not likely to try it again. So with all of us here working with technology, I think it's important that we try to get it right the first time when they're using it, but also create something that is friendly to them and user friendly to them, that they understand. I think sometimes we might think that something might work for them, but I think sometimes we need to involve them more in the design process. One thing that I think, because we're talking about intergenerational so much in this group too, I think that is a key, is to involve the youth who is technology savvy to then perhaps work with the elder population in using these devices. And that helps them, but it also, because we're trying to prevent, dementias and Alzheimer's, and why wait till later? But we can start with the youth, so then they change and perhaps they perhaps use some of these lifestyle interventions in their lives. Maybe they take something and it sticks with them and it helps them when they're older as well. So I think that, I don't know, the future I think is intergenerational as well with the technology piece. And I really see that group working on that here in that issue. So thank you for that.
Well, that's great. Well, I have been informed that actually my 5-minute warning was supposed to have been done 5 minutes before that. So I am going to encourage, I assume you all have everybody's emails that you can, this is hopefully the beginnings of connectivity. And I don't know if my email is there or not. I really haven't paid any attention. But it's Davis Masten, like my name, Davis, Masten, Masten, at mac.com. So pretty simple. But if I can be of use, I just never know. But if I can be, that's fine. If not, that's just great. So thank you for your time today. And really good luck. I'm just so inspired by what everybody's doing. So thank you for participating, and the best of luck on the awards.